Welcome back to Chaotic Underground. I am your host, Z Diggity. Joining with me is Steven and Ryan. Say hi, guys.
Hey.
And we're going to do some fun topics for you in today's podcast. If this is your first time here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can beat the algorithm monster. And click the links below to buy our awesome t-shirts. Please buy them. We need money.
We have t-shirts?
We do. We have multiple t-shirts.
I actually don't know that. Like, I'm not trying to do a bit here. I didn't know we had t-shirts. What, for this one in particular?
Well, we do have a Chaotic Underground t-shirt, actually.
Hey,
where have you been?
Oh my God.
Who are you?
I've been working in retail. I don't know what real life is anymore.
You
Everyone
should
hates
know
me.
that we have t-shirts, retail man.
It is really cool. The Chaotic Underground one, it has a little QR code on it hidden in the picture or the graphic on the t-shirt. And it's a secret QR code, so it's a surprise when you scan it where it goes.
That's actually really cool. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I'm gonna have to check that out
takes-
later for sure.
It takes you to meatspin.com.
Oh God, it's $19.99 all over again.
No, it doesn't. Oh my gosh.
Thanks, Steven. I'll give you that $5 after we record
Jeez.
for
Lord.
bringing that up.
How you guys doing?
Not too
Hi.
bad, man.
Not too bad?
Not too bad.
Nice.
I'm
good.
doing okay. Surviving retail hell, dealing with angry old ladies and scam artists, that sort of thing. We're living the dream, as they say. It's overall really good. I'm ready to get into some crazy topics. I think you've been chomping at the bit all week to kind of not give away what we're talking about this week, because I think we have a new format, at least for now.
Yeah. We're trying out a new thing where you guys are blind, 100% blind, right? On
Yep.
this.
Yeah.
And one of us will study the topic and then we present it. And this week, we're just going to hop right into it. We're talking about one of my favorite events in history, World War II. Not because it was good or anything, but I am fascinated by the history of it. So
It was so fun.
oh my God.
For all parties involved.
No, in light of recent events with specific rappers out there, I don't want to.
I was thinking to myself, what is
Yeah.
Ryan going to say this week that makes us all go, wait a minute? But it was Z. It was Z this week.
time.
My favorite event from history, the Second World War.
Look, I'm fascinated with World War history. I always have. And me and our mutual friend Face Kicks, we always talk about World War II. It's just because we are huge fans of Risk, and so that we read a bunch of World War II books and yada yada yada. But today we're talking about Mad Jack Churchill. And have you guys ever heard of him in any sense at all? No.
I've had no exposure to Mad Jack Churchill. The only Churchill I know is Winston Churchill, who is equally interesting, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remember the turtle story, or at least some version of it. 'Cause I'm terrible.
I kind of got a whiff. I kind of got a small whiff of what you were going after for this episode. I knew it had to do something involving Churchill and World War II. So, of course, my mind immediately went to Winston Churchill, right?
Yeah.
So any relation?
No,
Is this
none at
like
all.
his little brother?
No, none at all. Like, there's absolutely no relation between these two guys. And it's funny that you bring that up, because it actually there's an event in our story that gets him into a little bit of trouble later down the line. So because he shares a last name with the prime minister, or the former prime minister, he's long dead. But yeah, so I'm just gonna hop right into it. I got a little bit
still
of
my prime minister.
said my. Yeah, you just like it because you just watched Darkest Hour, right? Well, I just watched Darkest
I've
Hour.
always been fascinated with Winston Churchill, but that movie upped the ante a little bit more.
Yeah,
but
I gotta finish.
But anyway, not about Winston Churchill.
Well, there we go. I'm just going to start right into it. So John Malcolm Thorpe Churchill was born on September 16th. He's the son of an engineer for the general public. John's family would never be in the same place for a terribly long time due to the nature of his father's work. Churchill had two younger brothers, while not as eccentric as he would have their own military careers. He graduated from the Dragon School of Oxford, and
Wait. I gotta ask, did all the siblings have multiple names? Because he had 4 names.
So I
had 4 names.
I don't think Mad was one of his names.
Mad was not one of his names. He's not like Gandalf or anything like that.
No, but his legal name that he listed has 4 names in it. Is that a common thing?
John Malcolm Thornton. I think in the UK it is, at least. I mean, and celebrities. I don't know. But like he had, I don't know the names of his brothers. I didn't want to look too much into them and not make it about the Churchill boys, but
the Churchill gang.
Yeah, it's like the British Hardy Boys. Yeah,
the Churchill boys,
the Churchill lads.
Except instead of solving mysteries, they just beat people up until they give them the answers.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a clue right here.
Got you right there, mate. Right. But ironically, his both of his brothers would have military careers of their own. But Churchill's was kind of the more interesting of the two. So after he graduated the Dragon School of Oxford, he went to a military school, graduated there, and instantly enlisted into the British Army, and he was shipped to Burma. And the early stages of his career were actually pretty boring, pretty uneventful. Not much happened, and he actually retired from the military in 1936, thinking that nothing was going to happen. But here's where the story where the story flowers a little bit. While he was retired from the military, because this guy, he was always kind of like a free spirit, had no regard for authority. He was just a weird dude in general. He would do everything. So he learned archery. And won a contest in Oslo, Norway. He picked up the bagpipes while he was in Burma, took second place in a military bagpipe contest. So already he's shaping up to basically be the Highlander. And
dude, I would pay good money to watch a bagpipe contest.
Yeah. Yeah. So the bow and arrow and the bagpipes are going to come way. It's going to be a big part of his legend in a way.
What?
Yeah.
It's like this. They're like the 7th and 8th and 9th word on his Wikipedia page. So
are you serious? Apparently he was a big enough archery and bagpipe man to have that be the prominent feature in his Wikipedia article. I think it's a little more interesting that Oxford has basically Hogwarts house names. Yeah, I didn't know that.
House Dragon.
Yeah, it makes so much more sense that Harry Potter, houses are named the way they are. Except they don't get dragons. They had the cool lion, and then I guess a badger or some shit like that.
Dude, yeah, they probably had a sorting hat and everything.
So when he retired from the army before rejoining or whatever, just for context, he would have been my age. He was about 30 years old.
Bro, he was.
I'm 31. What are you laughing about, you asshole?
No, you aren't.
I would say he'd be in his late 20s, early 30s, somewhere around there.
I was just doing that.
Yeah,
good for him.
So he got into archery, got into bagpipes, got really good at them, and then he got bored of those. So then he moved on to journalism, became an editor for a newspaper and a journalist. Did that for about a year. Quit, got bored of that, and then he's like, I'm going to become an actor. And he's actually so he's basically Arnold Schwarzenegger at this point.
No, this is England's first case of ADHD. That's what that shit is.
Maybe this is why I loved his story so much, because it's exactly like how I hop from things to things. So I identify the hell out of him. It's freaking awesome. So he was in two films. One of them was called A Yank at Oxford. He was involved in Ivanhoe, and the other one was called the name escapes me. I'll find it.
The Thief of Baghdad.
The Thief of Baghdad. Thank you so much.
But he really,
yeah. So in Ivanhoe,
that's a famous movie, isn't it?
I mean, I'm no film expert, so I maybe yes. I don't know.
All right, so it's official. None of us are film nerds.
No, dude, I'm a film. We love film.
Sorry that I know we came into this blind, but now you're talking about it, and so I'm just speed reading.
Oh, you're good, man.
You're cheating. You're cheating.
That World Archery Championship you're talking about in Oslo, that was the year World War II started.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop reading.
No, you're fine. No, yeah, it's wild. No, like, yeah, so like this gets insanely wild. And one thing I wanted to note too, so he loved his motorcycle. He had a 1913 Zenith motorcycle that he purchased. So when he was stationed in Burma,
Of course he did.
And the rest,
of course.
So when he was stationed in Burma and the rest of his troop, like his squad mates, they would take the boat to wherever they needed to go. He would ride cross country 1,500 miles on this little Zenith, and he would like hop on, like, there's railroads like crossing ravines and everything. He would put his bike on the rail and like skip across the brackets to get. The guy was nuts. And then there's a famous story of how like he had a run-in with a water buffalo while he was riding cross country in Burma, and shot the thing, skinned it, took all the meat with him, and continued on his way. He so out the gates, he was just destined to have like a not normal life.
That's some mythical level shit right there. Like, you not only did you encounter a water buffalo on a wild motorcycle ride, I guess, you killed it, skinned it, took its meat, packed it up, somehow figured out how to keep it good, and like transported it across the rest of the country. No one just does that.
Yeah.
No one.
Which makes me inquire. I realize a large portion of this is going to be probably about his antics in World War II, but I want to know what his childhood was like. Like, how was he raised to become who he became?
So from what I read, he had a relatively like normal childhood. He was just kind of a weird kid. I mean, his dad consistently worked, and he had two brothers, but there's nothing really jumping out in the research I found for his childhood. But like, we've all had those. I have a friend who's actually in the SLG Discord named Canned Unicorn. And I went to high school with him, and I would like to think that he's actually very akin to just a weird dude, and strange and just, but like really just an open free spirit. But the guy was like a born leader too. That's and you'll find out why as we go forward. But his childhood, like I found nothing that was really out there with his childhood.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're comparing him to Canned Unicorn. So what I'm taking away is that Canned Unicorn has amazing leadership skills and versatility, which makes sense because he's
bagpipes and archery.
Absolutely.
No. He's just a fucking weird dude.
He's a DM of D&D groups. That's leadership at its T. All right. Like, this is a small aside, but if you are DMing a group of humans in Dungeons and Dragons, that takes some real leadership skill. It is a chore. I actually retired from it because that shit almost killed me.
Okay, here's where I'm gonna hop right into the war stuff. After, as you mentioned, that archery contest in Aslo was the same year the war starts. He was jazzed, instantly goes to request to be at the front of the line, is there in the heat of the battle before the Battle of Dunkirk and during the big retreat and everything. So just going to read this little extra here. When World War II began, he was recruited into the Manchester Regiment and was sent to France as part of the British Expeditionary Force. Most of the stories going forward with him, with his antics, these are all like secondhand information. It's all, his squad mates saw him do this shit on the field. And then, of course, it might have gotten blown up. But in one of his brother's books, there's an excerpt in the book that basically says where he kind of let his men have those stories, not for his own like personal gain and glory, but to keep them motivated.
Yeah, like morale high. Like, you do some crazy shit in battle, your guys are gonna be like, let's fucking go.
I mean,
let's kill some Nazis.
Gonna be doing one thing and one thing only: killing Nazis.
It's Inglorious Bastards. It's the get good of morale boosting activities. Jack's out there going, "Come on, boys, let's go! I just fought a bear and killed 3 Nazis with my thumb. Let's kill them some more."
You're not far off the mark. That's the thing, though, because here it gets wild. Okay, so Ryan, you skimmed through the Wikipedia a little bit. Did you see anything about a clay bag or a claymore or anything like that, or a sword?
I haven't made it that. I'm trying to just stay up to where you are. I'm not trying to read ahead. You know what I mean?
Alrighty. Well, let's start with Mad Jack Churchill's sword. Okay, so this man would charge into battle with a claybag sword, which is a basket-handled kind of rapier-style sword with a single edge. And he was, in a modern warfare, charging into battle with a longbow on his back and a claybag in his hand, charging at the Germans. And so he would use it to signal his commanding officers and inspire the troops. And he actually had a few of his peers and his generals ask him, like, why do you have that sword on you? And his response were, any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed. So the most British thing anybody can say.
Oh no, this man was a fan of warfare before war broke out. Like he knew decorum.
He was itching for this.
Yes, he saved that shit for this
he was
moment.
He was like, listen, I was in the army for 10 years. Nothing happened. I retired. Then shit breaks out. I'm bringing my sword and my bow.
He came right out of retirement. He's like, I've been practicing, boys. Let's go.
Yeah. So, and he, like, I'm just going to kind of list off a few of like the tall tale stories that happened, and then we'll go into detail about my favorite one. But there's another battle in Norway. He apparently charged from his position, playing his bagpipes and hurling grenades. Again, is it true or not? I don't know, but based off of the things that I feel like are the story and who this guy is, it sounds freaking plausible.
I wonder if he like threw him rhythmically to like, you know, add some bass to his bagpipe playing.
Like he pulls him at certain intervals.
Early form of dubstep involves grenades.
Good Lord.
Okay, so you gotta think about the perspective of people on the other side of it. I'm genuinely curious if there is a account
Nazi
from the other
accounts?
side. Yeah, from the other side that's like, there was this motherfucker playing the bagpipes, which threw me off like crazy.
Yeah.
And then a grenade landed. I didn't even know what to do.
So
he had bagpipes.
he is the last recorded it's the last recorded kill with a bow and arrow in a war was by Mad Jack Churchill. He shot Nazis with his bow and arrow. Like, so there's one mission he was doing. He saw a Nazi light up his cigarette, and then his buddy. Now, picture this.
That's not true. I saw Hawkeye do it in Infinity War like a few years ago.
Get the fuck out.
Wrong podcast, man. This is the wrong side. You're on wrong podcast, man. But can you imagine if, to get back on track, can you imagine that you're a soldier, you know, spark up a cigarette, just chatting, you're on post, regular duty, and then your homie next to you just gets beamed in the neck with an arrow in the middle, like in modern warfare.
Yeah. You light up a cigarette and you wake up dead.
How the hell do you wake up dead?
Because you're alive when you go to sleep.
I mean, it's genius. It's genius. Okay, a bow and arrow doesn't have muzzle flash. It is absolutely the apex of sniper. It is quiet. There is no bang. There is no muzzle flash. You can't be found unless someone knows where you are. It's pretty scary, and it's actually probably the last war that he could get away with it, most likely.
Yeah. And that's what I was gonna say. It's like, that's the thing about this time period, it's not really modern warfare. Like, there wasn't crazy body armor like there is today. I mean, you could pierce through most things besides like a Panzer, right? Like,
yeah, and there wasn't like super optimized tactics, that SEAL Team 6 does and everything.
Yeah.
It's
It was more just like send as many guys as you can and hope to win.
But when I say for the time, modern warfare, like longbows were long gone at this point.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, the thing is, you're talking about, it's one of the last times that single bolt rifles were used in a war. I mean, I know they were used by other groups of people, but in terms of like the majority of people had single bolt rifles.
Infantry.
Absolutely. And, it was still the case of thousands of people being thrown up against each other in decimated countrysides. I mean, to a degree, even guerrilla warfare wasn't overall used. It was still a pretty uncommon, affair. And this is really where we made a lot of strides in terms of warfare technology, warfare tactics. We had no choice but to get better, because a lot of the things the Germans were doing made us have to step up our game. which led to all kinds of advancements, some welcome, some not so much. And that's pretty wild that this guy is out there still just fighting with a bow and arrow and a sword.
Well,
and surviving.
And surviving, and on top of the guy, he legit relished in it. And I don't think there, according to what I've read, there was no instance where his men really saw him stressed or worried. He was so nonchalant. So when they're in training before they all get deployed, it's dumping rain, and they are stationed to stand there, not move like the traditional British soldiers do, and maintain where they stand, come rain, hail, or thunderstorm or fire. And so all his buddies are like, all the squad's like sitting there standing in the rain and everything. He just casually rolls up with an umbrella, and his commanding officer turns beet red and stomps up to him and asks him, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Why do you have an umbrella?" And then he just responds, "Because it's raining, sir."
he's the character from the Avengers.
He's Errol Flynn. He's like an Errol Flynn at this point, like a very Errol Flynn.
Very much Errol Flynn. Was it kind of like that lone wolf that gets it done? I bet that's the reason his troops did really well. Is he's just doing shit and succeeding, and so they're like, hey, if he's surviving with bagpipes, grenades, and a bow and arrow, let's fucking go. I can do this. I got a gun. It's
seriously, I think he was probably a huge morale boost, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Or at least just a huge source of confusion for the Germans.
So because of those antics, and because of these antics, he was dubbed the name Mad Jack or Fighting Jack.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, it depends on who you ask, but like I wouldn't want to fight him personally. But
I'm impressed. This is very much ripe for an Indiana Jones situation.
He is Indiana Jones.
Well, and the weird thing is, he's in an environment where more people have guns than the other way around. So for me, it's actually ripe for that situation. That's the famous scene where the guy's swinging around the swords and Indy just pulls out a gun and shoots him.
Yeah.
And there were numerous people that clearly died by this man's hand and never got the chance to even shoot him.
Yeah. And he was at the Battle of Dunkirk, and he was part of the squad that he was part of the troops that were getting pushed towards Dunkirk. So what would happen is when the Nazis were pushing and running after him, him and his men, they would move during the day, stop at night, and then he would take a small regiment with him out in the night to go and sabotage the roads, go kill a few Nazis with the longbow. They would do what's called a 2-for-1 deal, where they would hide mines under their fallen fellow Nazis, and so they'd hide mines under it, and they'd move it, and so they'd call it a 2-for-1.
Jesus,
yeah, that's a real guerrilla warfare tactic. That's absolutely something. Like, I don't know really where that stands. Like at the time, was guerrilla warfare looked down on, or was it just a thing that happened?
He does have a quote where he says he in his actual, I think it's his brother's book, he writes that while it's not exactly smiled upon as warfare, they're bloody Nazis, basically, is what he said. Hitler was a bad dude, so and fuck Nazis. So
we're talking the Battle of Dunkirk. Quick question, I know you checked it out. Is the movie Dunkirk by Christopher Nolan? Is he featured in that movie?
He's not in the movie.
No.
Really?
No.
That just seems like something that's ripe for that. I guess if you're going for a super authentic, maybe not, because it's such a If you were trying to put Mad Jack or Fighting Jack into a movie, it would seem like mythical. It would seem fantastical.
There have been independent, and that it's funny you say that, because every historian and every YouTuber and every book that I read, they all say the exact same thing. He is a man out of fiction. He lived a full adventure life. He was by, I think it was like the British Explorers Club. He was labeled as the one of the bravest adventurers in all time by the British Explorers Club.
You make a good point. Why is there not a movie about this guy? That seems like such a gimme.
Yeah.
And I'm looking and there's not.
There are screenplays, there are multiple forums that I stumbled upon where
really
at least 4 or 5 users I saw say, I have a screenplay about this guy I'm trying to get pushed through. I saw multiple forums so people have written screenplays about him, but Hollywood has not made a movie about him yet.
Let's just be real. I'm ready for like Guy Ritchie to make this movie. Just to be like absolutely bonkers. Like, to think about Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Rock and Rolla, all that. Even Sherlock Holmes, just version of a story about Mad Jack.
I think it would be a good.
Is it that it's just too unbelievable?
No,
Like,
no.
like
Well, no. I think it would be a good Edgar. I think it would be a good Edgar Wright movie. Personally,
Yeah.
I think he's the only person that can really pull that off. Because okay, if you are trying to sell a screenplay, right, and you go, all right, so here's the scene. He's ready to really kind of advance on the enemy, and so he busts out his bagpipes and loads his shoulder up with a band of grenades, and he just gets out there and starts playing Amazing Grace and throwing grenades willy-nilly at the Nazis, and it goes awesome. Like, maybe we could even do like a remix of the Amazing Grace bagpipe playing, and I can just see Hollywood people going, what the fuck are you saying? No, it's based in history. It actually happened. Like, there's multiple accounts of it. Like, nah.
I mean, not to correct you, it was like March of the Camerons or Cameron of the Marches that he played.
Oh my! The only song I know by bagpipes is "Amazing Grace." Yeah. Forgive me.
Yeah, I probably even got the title wrong because I lost it. But I want to move into like one of my favorite actual stories of what I felt like was his biggest like accomplishment was during the invasion of Italy in Sicily. Churchill was ordered to capture German observation posts outside of town in Molina. And so at night, him and another officer, just 2 guys, mind you, go from section to section and proceed to capture German soldiers with a sword and only a sword. So they would sneak up to him, and then he would like sneak up to the back and then hold a sword to their neck. And he proceeded to do this to about 4 or 5 more bases until he'd let the Germans keep their rifles but take their bolts out so they couldn't use them. Marched him back to camp, and him and this officer ended up capturing 42 Nazi soldiers, just the 2 of them.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah. With a sword.
I think about that. Like, you think about a group of 42 people, even without their bolts on their rifles, and they can't just bum rush this dude. But to be fair, most people in the German army aren't exactly ready to take on a sword with bare fists.
He basically said, like, well, he would, when they would do, him and his troops would do like an actual invasion, like when they did the initial push before they just started going covert and taking all these hostages. They had him stand in parallel columns and just start yelling "commando" over and over again, and to confuse the Germans. And his quote basically was saying, like, if you tell the Germans to do something just really loud and with confidence, they'll do it. That's why they make such lovely soldiers.
Yeah, I was just saying, that's why they're Nazis.
Yeah, they're Nazis.
Hitler was really loud.
He was really loud. Yeah,
and very confident.
Very confident. Horrible artist.
So sure of himself. Yeah. Wow. That's every time you tell me a story about this guy, it just sounds like he had an effect on people around him, even his enemies. Like, and I imagine that his stories spread to the other side. Mm-hmm. So when you like, for me, like one of the biggest things I really kind of take away from this is it sounds like an Inglourious Basterds character.
Yeah, very much so. And they probably based a lot off of him.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a World War II. It's the Nazis. A lot of these tactics and weird things that happened, and that's the thing is, portrayed in that movie. They kind of like they become this mythical force around that other Nazis hear about that they want to avoid. Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what happened here for him. Is like it doesn't make it better for them to take him on when they're hearing stories about him taking over multiple bases with him and one other person with a sword, guys being necked with an arrow in the middle of the night, that no one can see or hear until it's too late. That's some Batman shit,
dude. Right? Seriously, yeah. But there's more.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they're actually. He has a very interesting life for sure. he was at the Battle of Dunkirk. We all know how that went, but he eventually ended up being captured, and so he got captured and got taken to a concentration camp, and he was there for maybe about 2 days, and then he escaped.
Jesus.
In the middle,
Sounds about right.
he escaped. Him and another officer.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
No surprise ran across me when you said that.
Yep. They they escaped through a drain, and they left.
It just sounds like they would try to gas him, and he'd just come out the other side and start fighting Nazis.
Yeah.
Like
So-
what?
So anyway, they capture him again. they find them and capture him. They capture him again, and so they actually think that he is. They find out his last name is Churchill, so they think he's related to Winston Churchill.
Oh boy!
And so they take him to a different camp that's designed for special prisoners of interest, so they can ransom him off.
The VIP camps.
The VIP camp, and
Living the dream.
They find out that he's not, so he's just chilling here at this high security kind of luxury camp. You know, I don't know if it was luxury or not. I didn't get that far into it,
I
but
don't know if any concentration camp would be described as
well,
luxury.
if you want to
It's
keep
not
them
the
healthy,
Waldorf.
you want to keep them healthy if they're you want to keep them healthy if they're.
Ryan, aren't you glad you're not
hostages.
talking in this
Oh
episode?
my god. There's makeup out there to
Those
make
fancy
Ryan.
concentration
That's
camps.
right.
Oh god.
It's like what is
They put up
Kevin
air
McAllister-
fresheners.
Kevin McAllister there trying to use his dad's credit cards or
They
something.
have 13. They have 13 channels. The whole works.
Jesus Christ.
Oh man. So anyway, he escapes.
I would hope so. I mean, the luxury part kind of sold me on maybe he
Yeah.
decided to stay, but
Now they ended up. I read two things, that he escaped that one, and then I read another account where they actually let him go because I think that the war was ending and or something along the lines. He walked 93.
And you know this guy was annoying. Like he probably just pestered the shit out
Oh
of
my
him.
god, like he must have like seriously been in the cell just chatting away the guard the entire like you
I
ever
can
see that
only imagine.
Excuse me. I would like to walk over there to the restroom. Do you have an umbrella?
just or just like in Ghost he sings Henry VIII I am over and over and over again.
Oh my gosh.
He's got it, yeah. So long story short, he walks 93 miles after being released and raids farms and cooks them in his canteen, reunites with the troops, but to his dismay, quite literally the word dismay, the war was almost over. And he went on saying, if it weren't for those damn Yanks, we'd still be fighting right now. So
This man is a machine.
No interest in actually winning the war or defending his home country or the world from these terrible people. This man just wanted to fight.
Absolutely. He basically was a UFC fighter that didn't want any fight to end. He was like, "What? The war's over? This is bullshit." Anybody else want to fight? Anybody?
yeah, like so he was just a fighter. If it and the exact quote, just to make sure, give me validity. If it wasn't for those damn Yanks, we could have kept the war going for another 10 years. This is the exact quote.
Jesus.
This man is both an amazing hero and a menace. He is both the reason the war is fought and the reason the war is won. Like he just wants chaos.
We call those chaotic neutrals right there.
This is what the fuck, man. That's nuts.
Good Lord. So
that is every D&D player I've ever DM'd for right there.
Mad Jack Churchill's.
Absolutely. But he's basically a murder hobo.
That's 1,000 troops, and you're going at him with a bow? Yes, I am. Roll for initiative.
Roll for initiative.
Absolutely. Every roll is a 20.
I'd like to try and
nat
piss in
20.
the orc's eye. Roll for initiative. Which is something he also did. Just kidding. I was not true.
You had me there for a moment.
See, I could literally say anything and you guys would believe it because of how crazy this guy is.
Which leads me to say, war's over. What now?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So even after the end of World War II, Mad Jack's thirst for adventure wasn't satisfied. He got qualified as a parachutist and joined the Seaforth Highlanders and was sent to mandatory Palestine And in 1948, he became involved in another conflict. So he just loves war. Like
he's like those expats. Like after the war, they just go work for like private security companies to like keep going and fighting wars. Just like that's all they know. That's all they want to do.
This is what we do good. I said it like one of them too. Wow, that was rude.
Yeah, dude, it slips my mind sometimes that you were military. So like you get that mindset, right? Like a lot of soldiers have, like after serving like in open conflict for years. That
it's a thing that's very hard for people to understand because it is a different lifestyle. You don't just live your life and deal with conflict around you. Excuse me. So when you're in the military, there is a very strict code of conduct. There are certain jobs you do, and if you do not do them, the other one does not work. So you are responsible for it, and you will be punished if you do not do it well. It is very rigid. And for those who like being in the military, for those who are born and bred, it's in their blood, they can't stop. I know plenty of guys like that. My cousin was a Marine. He was injured overseas, and all he did was figure out how he could continue to assist the U.S. military in doing anything. And so that's one of those things. It's like, they're like, you've been injured, go home. And he's like, I don't want to. I'm ready to keep going. And that's kind of like that same mentality extends to this day that Mad Jack had, whether it be for the English or Americans. I'm pretty sure there's American examples too, but that mentality still exists.
So I think honestly also that he was just a general free spirit and lover of life. Mm-hmm. He was never like
his like, life. Not anyone else's.
He's just he's an old timey adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah, I think that's it.
He went right into parachuting out of airplanes after the fact.
Yeah,
you can't go back after all of this to like sitting in England sipping tea and eating biscuits. It's like
wait for it.
Oh no.
All right. After the battles, so after retiring from the military for good and earning many awards, Mad Jack Churchill kept on being a general badass. In 1952, he had a minor part in the 1952 MGM-produced film Ivanhoe. He also moved to Australia for a bit and taught a military school there. And it was in Australia that he found his love for surfing. And after returning home from England, he became the first person ever to surf the River Severn's tidal bore.
That sounds like a thing he would do. He'd just look at a fucking river and go, I'm going to surf it. What? Yeah. It's a river, Jack. It's a river. You can't surf rivers. There's no waves. And he just fucking figures it out anyways.
So he got married. He got married and was married to the same girl for over 50 years. Had a very quiet life after. Just surfed, enjoyed his tea and biscuits, and just hung out. Then in his later years in life, especially when he was teaching at the military school, people would see him take the train consistently. And people who would frequent the train, they would see him open the train window and throw his briefcase out the window every day. So you see that you're on the train, you see this guy just out of nowhere open the window, throw it out the window. Weird shit. And so and then he'd walk off of the train and everybody would be like, what the hell's going on? But what he was doing is he was throwing the briefcase into his garden so he didn't have to carry it home.
That's the craziest thing you've said yet.
What the fuck?
Sounds made up, doesn't it? It sounds made up.
This man said, there's no more war, but I'm going to bring a taste of war to my daily commute.
I just want some chaos in my life.
I can't throw grenades anymore. I'm going to throw the briefcase out of a fucking train. What the hell?
I feel like I understand him. I do. You gotta spice things up.
I get it. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I got to say this one thing: is he was married to that woman for 50 years? That means she was scarier or crazier or both than he was,
or he was just never home.
Yeah.
Touche.
I mean, she was. I didn't research too much into her, but she was the daughter of a very famous military architect. So to get like, I imagine that they met, and his story might have been. This is what I imagine. Don't quote me on this, but his story has spread far and wide. It's like, fucking mad Jack Churchill, man. Of course you can marry my daughter.
It just shows up with an arrow in his back somewhere. Like, you said no? Okay, it's cool. Okay. It's dark at night.
But to wind it down, Mad Jack Churchill died at the age of 89 in 1996 in the country of Surrey. So lived a long life, survived many battles, survived World War II, became a professional surfer, professional archer, professional bagpipe player, professional actor, professional journalist. Like, the guy did everything.
So what you're saying is I'm a lazy sack of shit, and I haven't done jack shit with my entire life.
You haven't done mad jack shit your entire life.
No kidding.
I'm not. Well, I'm saying that he's one of the few people in life that I think that have gotten 100% completion. They got full completionist. He got completionist on life.
You got that platinum trophy.
The platinum trophy, baby. But okay, so I gotta know. Did he have any children?
He did have kids, I believe. I'm gonna hurry and fact check that while you go on your thought, though.
Oh, it's one of those cases. It's like, I want to know if the apple falls far from the tree. Like, was this just born out of an era, or he just was that way? I want to know if this is genetic.
His kid's working in a cubicle somewhere for some corporation.
And he's just like, man, I could be playing bagpipes right now. This shit is unreal. It's unacceptable.
They had two children. Malcolm John Leslie Churchill and Rodney Alistair Gladstone Churchill.
Okay, it's got to be a British thing. Like, you had to have four names. You had to have four names instead of three.
Yeah. But it's funny that you asked, is it a genetic thing? Because this is not the only soldier that I have a bunch of knowledge on. There's another soldier that's kind of similar to Mad Jack. His is a little bit more brutal. He's known as the Unbreakable Soldier. So, like, I think there's just people who were just that way mentally. Like,
yeah,
I think that that was a very transitional period of time.
Yeah.
Like, World War II, you can literally mark World War II as a difference between this period in history and this next period in history.
Right.
And I mean, whether it be technology, whether it be the rights during war. I mean, come on, up until World War II, like the Geneva Convention and everything like that, they really didn't have rules for war. Mm-hmm. I think, because if I recall correctly, it may have been World War I. Please, I'm not an expert on the timing on all this, but the whole, like, don't attack hospitals, don't attack churches, don't use biological agents. I know World War I used mustard gas, and that was a big point of contention that nations agreed upon that they shouldn't be doing. That's followed during that period, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure, like, a war that scale with that many people on the ground, that many feet on the ground, that many different nations involved, and just the difference between being on the field versus at home deciding tactics and movements of troops. There's a lot of things we don't know about. Some things are translated over without us really knowing the full truth, but to a degree we get a version of it that is as close as it can be. I don't think you can ever really compare. You can write and film all the Saving Private Ryans and use all the CGI you want, but it's never going to be the same. And I think that's why most of our stories sound like stories.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing of why it's like this happened then and as it happened, while we have had many other large geopolitical conflicts and wars and stuff, nothing on the scale of like, we'll take anybody and let them go out there and fight because we just need the men. And part of it was because of how big of a deal it was, World War II, but part of it is also now you're right, technology advanced very quickly after that, and now 1,000 men is still 1,000 men, and we need 1,000 men to fight. But we have a lot of other things we can do too. That it's not as crucial that we have 30,000 men in one place, right? Because we're not sending 30,000 men out running on a field against 30,000 other men, right?
Yeah,
and yeah, like and they enlisted, and when Churchill enlisted civilians in their personal boats for the Battle of Dunkirk, like other Churchill, the other crazy Churchill,
the
because they're
Winston
both
Churchills.
crazy.
This is such a fascinating thing, is because I think that if I had to guess anything, some of these people were born out of the fact that one World War had existed in the same lifetime as the Second World War.
Yeah.
So you're talking about World War One is a nasty experience. Trench warfare was the common thing, and that's what's wild. I want you to think about this. We went in like early, like it wasn't that many decades between World War One and World War Two.
Right.
World War One used trench warfare in the miserable rain and things like that, and they shot at each other across fields, or they ran at each other across fields. Not far from Civil War and Revolutionary War tactics.
Yeah.
Even with machine guns and artillery and things like that, they still did this shit. Mustard gas was used and all kinds of things that happened. Like, these people lived in these trenches, and then you have this generation of people that exist during that period of time. Maybe they have families, maybe they have brothers, sisters. They saw the effects of that, and then you have World War II come up. Some people would say, I don't want to be a part of that war. I don't want to be a part of that. And some people embrace it and they go, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's handle this time around.
And then meanwhile, you have us who are all just children of summer, and
absolutely.
Peace, and it's just like, God, you spelled my name wrong, ooh, or it's. But like, these are some of the hardest motherfuckers to go through 2 world wars. Like that, if you ever wonder why your great grandpa was always surly, like,
yeah, absolutely. I think that I think there is a certain degree of, there are exceptions to that rule, but I think it was far more common for that level of, I guess erratic behavior, just like devotion. How do I put it? It's like you saw people lining up to sign up to go to war in World War II. And I don't know. When I was in the military, there were people that signed up to go to fight in the Iraq War and in Afghanistan. They were there for that reason. So it's not gone. It's just probably not nearly as prevalent.
Dude, I mean, I'll toe the line here. I respect and love the shit out of our servicemen, and I hats off to every single one of them. I don't think in this day and age right now, like, I would ever go sign up to be in the military, right? Like, it's never crossed my mind, really. I think in that particular conflict, I can see myself. Of course, everyone wants to see themselves be that person, right? But this is just such a different phenomenon, right? Like, that you can't even imagine. But knowing what's going on over there, like,
and quite literally, it's we were going against the literal devil. He was a very just evil man. It's like
moving quickly, like moving super quickly across Europe. Like, and
he had all of Europe. He had all of mainland Europe.
Their war machine was ridiculous, and you'd think it, like, especially like the newer generation, they'd look at a map and see, like, Germany's not that big of a country, But what Hitler did is they put a huge operation on just producing their military equipment, and the Luftwaffe was a big reason. Like, that's when Chamberlain kind of was like, "Hey, you're building all these planes, please stop." And then Hitler was like, 9, and
like, let's be realistic. Honestly, he had a he was very skilled at military warfare. But unfortunately for him, like, good for us, overall the world, he made a lot of huge blunders. He took on a 2-front war. He allied with Japan, who pulled America into the war. By
now it's our problem.
it becomes a far, and I would argue that there's certain factors that changed how quickly Hitler was progressing. But I'd also like to say that there were plenty of people like Mad Jack Churchill out there just ready to fight. And I mean, I think he used his head. I think we can kind of laugh and joke about the bagpipes and the grenades and the longbow, but I mean, he did it for a reason. Like he probably thought about the fact of the silence and the lack of a muzzle flash and what he could get away with.
Or
for king and country, you know.
Or he was just mad.
It depends on who you ask. He's Mad Jack or Fighting Jack. It depends which side of the aisle you're on.
Not mutually exclusive, mind you.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Stephen, Ryan, I thank you for listening to the story of Mad Jack. Like my next few topics will probably be World War II related because as I said, it's one of my favorite pieces of history.
It's going to be fun to go over varying different kind of unique history-based stories. I'm getting back into the paranormal with a subject I'm coming up with here shortly, and I'm sure Ryan would be fun.
I thought this would be very appropriate. And while this isn't like a paranormal or mystery of the unexplained thing, he is such an enigma. I thought it would be appropriate for a topic for Underground. So
it's a wild
Absolutely.
story for sure.
I think that history has its own quirks of unusual natures and stories to go with it. I think that ultimately what we're looking for here in Underground is a good story, and I think that Mad Jack Churchill, God bless his, so the Queen bless his sweetheart, it definitely qualifies.
Yeah, there's a ton of ghost stories and paranormal stories and stuff like that you could tell me. Versus some of the stuff you can tell me that actually happened in history, and they're gonna surprise me more. They're gonna like blow my roof off more.
It made the world more interesting.
Yeah,
you know?
Cool stuff, man.
Yeah.
Well, that was awesome, Z. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Again, if this is your first time here, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other podcasts, Chaotic Pubcast, under this same channel, where we talk about Marvel and all things geek related. And also check out our merch. And if you love the show, please tell your friends, share us out, blast us out. If you hated it, keep your mouth shut. That being said, thank you. My name is Z Diggity. You have a good one. I was joined by Ryan and Steven.
It's this guy.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Have a good
Bye.
Night.